already told you, do justice. Or like the way that that we usually see it played out, right? Love justice and do acts of kindness. Or love talking about justice. No, that's not what he says. He says, do justice. And we, just like the Israelites, go, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like, it's like for someone to go, brush your teeth. I already brushed my teeth, right? To tell someone in this context to do justice, they would go, they would, I feel like, honestly, they would go, I don't do justice. Yeah, what you talking about? And God would go, I'm glad you asked. Right? Because when we talk about justice, let's talk about justice, and then let's move on what that means. And here's the critique for the church along with that. So when we say do justice, what are you quoting? Right? Because you really want to go into justice as Micah lays it out. Because let's go there. This is just an overview of what Micah would include as justice. And spoiler, it involves land. Who owns the land, who doesn't own the land, and what happens to the people who don't own the land. Check it out. Chapter 2, verse 1. Misappropriation of land, of God's land. It says, woe to those, verse 1, who devise wickedness and work evil on their beds. When the morning dawns, they perform it, because it is in the power of their hands. So those who have power, verse 2, they covet fields and they seize them. They covet fields and they seize them. They see property, and rather than thinking what the original intent of that property was supposed to be used for in the kingdom of God, they seize it for themselves. Houses, they take them away. They oppress a man and his house, a man and his inheritance. Skip down to verse 8. But lately my people have risen up as an enemy. You strip the rich robe from those who pass by trustingly with no thought of war. Listen, the women of my people you drive out from their delightful houses, from their young children you take away my splendor forever. That word women there is the word widow, right? You're going after widows and single moms, and you're taking where they live and you're kicking them to the curb. People. You can't just talk about doing justice while we have single moms who can't even afford to live in the community because of how much rent is. You can't talk about doing justice divorced from land and property rights. Because God is going, look, not only are you removing them from where they live, but you're messing with their inheritance. This is generational. You're creating systems and generations of poverty, because land, that's how you provided for yourself. Not only that, but it was the inheritance that when God says, when I rescued you out of Egypt, I put you into a land, and you are taking that inheritance away from people, right? So you're looking for the most vulnerable, and you're not protecting them, you're preying on them. Shame on you. Shame on you. So he goes after a system, right? And we said it's easy last week when we were talking about Amos. We said it's easy to sit back and go, those bad Israelites. Yeah. Like how could anyone just take land that's not theirs? How could anyone just go and seize property from one people to another people? Right? Right? And when we do that, I think we miss a part of our history that our generation has to address. Right? Like you can't talk about injustice in our context, right? Without thinking through the Homestead Act, without thinking through redlining, without thinking through gentrification, without thinking through ultimately manifest destiny, right? Go look at the Coronado Bridge, right? It's in our own backyard, right? So there are these elements that we share within this critique, where God goes, you really want to do justice, right? You have to think about how property is appropriated throughout those, especially to those who are poor.